Hey, what's going on, gang? Nate on the Stone here. Welcome back to my channel. You might have heard last week about a little kerfuffle that happened on Wall Street when a bunch of feisty commoners amassing on Reddit forced the price of GameStop stock to skyrocket. As icing on the cake, Robinhood, the purportedly no-fee app that allows common Joes like you and me to start playing the stock market like we're Uncle Moneybags, it announced that it would no longer allow its users to buy more GameStop stock, thus forcing the price to go even higher. Instead, it would only allow its users to sell said stock. This led to a typhoon of reactions where everyone from AOC to Ben Shapiro pontificated about how terrible it was that the peons had revolted against the fat cats of Wall Street, or said hopefully that this might actually be the first step to a glorious and new era, one that was born of a financial revolution. It was all heady and interesting stuff to be sure, but unfortunately it acted as a smokescreen for the really important story that happened last week. Have you ever heard of a guy named Doug Mackey? Don't feel bad if you haven't. Until last week, I'd say that 99% of the population hadn't heard of him, and even now, I'd wager that 95% of the population still hasn't heard of him. He's a 31-year-old conservative journalist living in Florida who last week, January 26th, was arrested by the FBI. That's our Federal Bureau of Investigations, which arrived at his home in the early hours of Wednesday, January 26th, dragged him out of his bed, threw him into a van, and placed him promptly in a jail cell. His crime? Posting memes during the 2016 presidential election. And no, gang, that is not a headline from The Onion, The Babylon Bee, or any other source of satire. That is the gospel truth. Doug Mackey was arrested by the FBI because he and a couple of his friends posted memes on social media during a presidential election. The Justice Department released a statement after his arrest, as is its wont, claiming that Mackey was arrested because he led a disinformation campaign on social media, which had as its purpose the suppression of votes during the 2016 election. Per the DOJ, quote, "As alleged in the complaint, between September 2016 and November 2016, in the lead up to the November 8, 2016 U.S. presidential election, Mackey conspired with others to use social media platforms, including Twitter, to disseminate fraudulent messages designed to encourage supporters of one of the presidential candidates, the candidate, to vote via text message or social media, a legally invalid method of voting." Some specific examples as to what Mackey and his friends were up to comes from the report filed by FBI agent Megan Reese, who was part of this official investigation. She writes, for example, that on or about October 29, 2016, one of Mackey's cohorts posted a meme, what she calls a deceptive image, to the private Twitter group War Room, which composed of a picture of the candidate, it was Hillary Clinton by the by, with the following message, quote, "Vote for the candidate. Post candidate's first name using hashtag presidential election on November 8th tweet and post the word candidate's first name using the hashtag presidential election on Facebook or Twitter between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. EST to cast your vote for the candidate. Stronger together. Candidate's website address." Reese reports that this same person, less than a minute later, comrades, posted another deceptive image to the same Twitter group, comprising of another picture of the candidate with this message, quote, "Vote early. Text candidate's first name to 59925 today. Paid for by candidate for president. Must be 18 years or older. Must be a legal citizen of the United States. Vote by text not available in Guam, Puerto Rico, Alaska, or Hawaii." The same group of malcontents apparently also photoshopped MAGA hats and other Trump memorabilia onto photos of celebrities like Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift to make it appear that these same celebrities were in fact backing the Donald to the hilt. I have to pause right there for a second in order to point out the elephant in the room. The entire point of a deception, regardless of what form it takes, is to bamboozle people into believing something that isn't true. This naturally means that the deception has to be first rate. Take a look, for example, at Operation Mincemeat, which was designed to convince the German High Command during World War II that the Allies totally weren't interested in attacking Sicily, so that it could be used as a base for their invasion of Italy, which was Churchill's plan all along. Instead, they were contemplating an imminent attack on Greece and Sardinia. To convince the Germans, the body of a Welsh tramp, Glyndwr Michael, was disguised as Major William Moughton of the Royal Marines and allowed to be discovered off the southern coast of Spain. The Germans got their hands on his body as well as on his briefcase, which revealed secret papers, proving conclusively that the Allies were eyeing Greece and definitely not Sicily. In this specific case, the body of Michael, as well as everything that went into his body getting discovered off the southern coast of Spain, was part of the deception. The entire backstory created for Major Martin, the special container designed so that his body would be preserved before it was discovered, the secret transportation of that container with said body in it to a British submarine off the coast of Spain. Heck, even the attempts by British intelligence to recover his briefcase to convince the German High Command that it was full of goodies. The ruse was so successful that Hitler actually moved German troops from Italy into Greece to prepare for the imminent Ally attack. An attack that, of course, never came. Now, to put this as delicately as I can, Mackey's memes that he and his friends posted onto Twitter are the exact opposite of Operation Mincemeat. I know that we're entering the deep fake age where pretty soon we won't be able to trust anything we see with our own eyes, particularly if we see it on a screen. But if someone tells you that you can cast a legal ballot in a presidential election by either tweeting out your candidate's name or texting your candidate's name to a certain number, that should raise red flags as big as the ones that Chairman Xi speaks in front of. What should have nailed these red flags to the walls of people's minds was the disclaimer that the texting option wasn't available in Alaska or Hawaii, an obvious homage to shipping and delivery loopholes, because last I looked, people in Nome or Honolulu could still text people here on the mainland. If people actually believed in these memes, and the claim is that up to 49,000 people did fall for them, then that is an indictment, not of Mackey and his supposed diabolical cleverness, but of the abject failure of the American education system, which has decided in its infinite Olympian wisdom that it is much more important to teach the little gender-fluid dears in first and second grade about the wonders of masturbation, gay sex, polyamory, and systematic racism than the actual lowest common denominator civics that it takes to actually govern yourself in a supposedly Republican society.
But wait, there's more.
In her report, Agent Reese says that Mackey and his cohorts violated Section 18 U.S. Code Section 241, which states, quote, "If two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district, in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having so exercised the same, or if two or more people go in disguise on the highway or on the premises of another with intent to prevent or hinder his free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privileges so secured." You might have noticed a small discrepancy there. The posting of memes onto social media publishers isn't covered by that section of the legal code. You might also have noticed that the posting of said memes to said social media platforms doesn't threaten, doesn't intimidate, and doesn't injure a person. And it sure as heck doesn't entail putting on disguises like you're part of the Artemis Gordon Appreciation Society and physically going out to prevent people from voting. Aha! So it still can oppress people, can't it? The problem with that, though, is that oppress means to either keep someone in a state of subservience or hardship, or to make someone feel distressed, anxious, or uncomfortable. Posting memes onto Twitter and Facebook isn't exactly what you learn in Gulag Security School. And if all it takes to violate 18 U.S. Code Section 241 is making someone feel uncomfortable, then I personally guarantee that everyone above the age of 4 has to be hauled off to court right now, which is going to be very, very interesting because the judges are going to be in the fish tank too. What we have then now is the United States government, now under the auspices of the Biden administration, arresting an innocent man and punishing him simply because he was effective at what he did. And make no mistake about it, gang, this is partially about punishing Doug Mackey because he was so effective at what he did. In a note that runs on pages 14 and 15 of her report, Agent Reese quotes some of Mackey's Twitter friends who marveled at the amount of interaction his tweets got, the amount of times they were liked and retweeted. And Twitter analytics actually show that leading up to the 2016 election, Mackey was a much more prominent voice on Twitter than some of the main players. We're talking about people or institutions like NBC News, Stephen Colbert, Newt Gingrich. There's really only one way to put this, gang. The United States government, the government that is supposed to be working for you and for me, has gone full Soviet Union. The United States government now is in the business of arresting and punishing its enemies, and then lying to us, coming right out and lying directly to us as to what laws the perpetrator is said to have broken. And this naturally opens up an entire horrible Pandora's box. Because if the government and the ruling castes are going to lie about Doug Mackey and the laws he purportedly broke, then you can bet your last nickel that they are going to lie about the law again and again and again to get rid of other people who so much as make a peep about what the ruling castes are doing. And it won't just be against the rich and the famous or the influential. It won't be against the Mark Levins and the Glenn Becks. No. It's going to be against the common, ordinary people like you and me. The people who are just working, trying to keep body and soul together, but who want to push back against the lies of the left in however is most effective for us and our station of life. Or heck, maybe we don't even have such grandiose schemes at all. Maybe we just want to have a little fun at the ruling caste's expense. It doesn't matter. If you do that now, you can expect the FBI to come knocking on your door at 5 o'clock in the morning. And if that seems a little bit too alarming, a little bit too Orwellian, remember this, gang, drill it into your heads. The precedent has been set. And once precedents are set, they will be returned to again and again and again and again. This effectively means that the First Amendment has been put on ice. It is now official. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution is null and void because the ruling castes say that it is null and void. Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, that's kind of an overblown assumption, isn't it? After all, we're just talking about a couple of memes on Facebook and Twitter. That doesn't automatically mean that the entire First Amendment has been put on ice, right? Au contraire, gang, remember, the Department of Justice said that Mackey had been involved and engaged in a disinformation campaign. Now, disinformation is already sort of a spongy term. You never quite know what it means. But that's even in the best of times. Now, when we live in an environment when words like Nazi, white supremacist, marriage, and terrorist have been completely revamped, realigned, redefined in order to obey the whims of the ruling powers. And you combine that fact with the truth that we now live in a newly segregated and racialized society where the mere fact of having pale skin means that you are a potential domestic terrorist, you can bet your last wooden nickel that the powers that be will redefine that spongy term disinformation so that they can pick and target whoever they take a dislike to, whoever they regard as a threat to their throne and crown. Oh, and it also means that justice, which is the actual end of civil society, as Alexander Hamilton said, has been taken to the backyard, decapitated, and replaced with raw power and ideology. And that's what's really at the heart of this story, gang. Forget about Biden signing 40 executive orders in 9 days, the most FYI of any president in history. Disgraceful, yes. Authoritarian, yes. Dictatorial, yes. By Joe Biden's own admittance just a few short months ago. But ultimately, child's play in comparison to this. Because this story honestly marks the dawning of a new era in American history, when America is no longer America, because the traditions, the ideas, and the ideals that actually made us the United States of America have been spat on, trampled, and replaced with precedents like this. It might sound kind of funny, gang, but as I was researching for this video, a quote from Martin Luther popped into my head. "The devil cannot stand to be mocked." And working from that premise, you can identify who or what is the devil in your society by who or what you cannot contradict, whom or what you cannot make fun of. And the thing about devils is that they can't be bought, bribed, reasoned, bullied, or negotiated with. They can only be defeated by being exorcised back to hell. But as always, what say you? Does Doug Mackey's arrest herald the dawning of a new totalitarian regime in America? Just full on, flat out, open totalitarianism? Or is this just the left being the left as usual, just with a bit more muscle behind it now that they've stolen the 2020 election? As always, let me know your thoughts, ideas, and opinions in the comment box below. Well, that about wraps up everything for right now, gang. Before you go, if you could give the video a like and share it on social media with your friends to spread the message, I would be very much obliged. And if you like videos about the culture, politics, and religion, but from a unique POV, then subscribe, ring that bell like Quasimodo so that you will never miss a video when I actually post them up here. Thank you again for your patience in that regard. As always, thank you for watching, for giving me a little bit of your day. Thank you to everyone who has been patient with me and who has subscribed to my channel. I appreciate every single one of you. And until next time, gang, stay safe and stay free by daring to read, think, speak, and write. Talk to you later. Ciao.